What's up and welcome to Caleb Smith TV. This is your friend Caleb Smith bringing you a brand new video. Today we are entering the land of the Lawn Weenies. This is a very interesting book that I rented from the library recently. I went to the library with my granddaddy. We had an excellent time. Usually I don't like going to the library, therefore I haven't went to the library for like 20 years. But I went with my granddaddy because he kind of suggested it to me. He likes going to the library and stuff, so I went with him, checked out some books. Well, I only checked out the one book, but I did look at some other books, decided Land of the Lawn Weenies is where I'm going. And so I'm going to take you guys there as well. Now, I'm not going to actually read a chapter from the book. I'm just going to kind of give some explanation to the first story, because this is actually a collection of short stories. It's not like a full book per se, it's more of like a bunch of tiny books put together to create the one book, In the Land of the Lawn Weenies, and other warped and creepy tales. So eventually the Lawn Weenies that we see right here are actually going to show up. Very cool art though. Very cool art. If this art was to be made today, I truly believe that it would be AI generated, but considering that this book actually came out in 2003, June of 2003, I think it's safe to say that this is probably not AI generated art. So you gotta actually appreciate it. I do think that some of those weenies are copy and pasted, but that's fine. So today we're going to be talking about fairies, because in this first story here, the very first story of In the Land of the Lawn Weenies, we have a story called Fairy in a Jar. Fairy in a Jar. Super exciting, because fairies are interesting. Fairies are interesting creatures. They've showed up a lot in a ton of different folk tales and stories and pieces of media, movies. Peter Pan, for example. People really like fairies. Fairies are cool. I like fairies. So if you like fairies, then stay along for the rest of this video, where we are going to talk about In the Land of the Lawn Weenies from June of 2003. Our first story is called Fairy in a Jar. The main character of the story is unnamed, but based on the context and interest of the character, we can assume that he is a young boy in elementary school or middle school. We could also assume that since the story is written in first person, the main character could be the author himself, David Lubar. The boy has a group of friends that he calls the guys, and it's very apparent that one of his main goals is to impress the guys. The story begins on a seemingly regular night, with the young boy using his old bug catching set. He's not super interested in bug catching, but since the guys are busy, there's nothing better to do. He caught a few fireflies pretty quickly, and then saw a glimmering flash under a tree. He made his way to the tree and swung his net, capturing the creature who he assumed was a bat. Upon dropping the creature in his handy glass jar, he noticed that it wasn't a bat at all. It was a fairy. The fairy is 5 inches tall, with dark hair and a green dress, which I assume to be similar to Tinkerbell's outfit in Peter Pan. But this fairy is far more vicious than Tinkerbell. She immediately starts begging for her freedom from the jar, claiming that she can grant wishes. But the boy decides that could easily be a trick, and he wouldn't free her until she grants him a wish from inside the jar. I guess the fairy was as stubborn as the boy, because she then reveals her true nature, gnashing her surprisingly sharp teeth and biting off the head of one of the fireflies that had been caught earlier. This caused the boy to freak out a bit. He realized that this fairy was too dangerous to be released, unless she was to grant him his wishes. Then he would have most likely freed her with relative ease, or at least that's what I like to think. After 5 days, the fairy finally agreed to transmute an object into a diamond for the boy. The object needed to have carbon in it. That's how you get diamonds. There's science to the magic. The boy, excited about receiving a real diamond from the fairy, cautiously slid some mechanical pencil lead into the air holes of the jar. The fairy then began to work on crafting the diamond, saying it will take some time. 4 nights later, she has finished her work. The diamond was complete and she offered it to the boy. The diamond was regular sized, if you're a fairy, but to a human the diamond was the size of a grain of sand, barely visible and worth nothing. The boy, feeling tricked, decided not to free the fairy. She still owed him. On the next day, he went to the jar to talk to the fairy again, except this time his worst fears came to life. There was a fairy-sized hole in the side of the jar, and the fairy was gone. She had cut the hole using the tiny diamond she crafted. She had freed herself. Realizing the situation, the boy leaves us off by telling us he's too scared to sleep ever again. And if I was him, I would be too. Especially after locking her in a jar for nearly 10 days. Fairies are not to be trifled with, and their teeth are indeed like little tiny daggers. I would try to just stay clear of them, or at least try not to lock them in a jar for several days, demanding that she grants my wishes. But that's just me, Caleb Smith. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed your stay here at Caleb Smith TV. Please tune in to the next video, whenever that will be. Until then, stay vigilant. Caleb Smith, signing out.